Okay, so my main point here is to show some of the ways that stressful things would go. You might see 5 or so, I didn't cover this, or it's possible. I'm just trying to talk and go through this once. You'll put your own way of seeing how these things function and relate to each other as you gain experience in this way. First, you have to see where you are with it in your own chart. Once you see that, and okay, then you say, oh, they don't have that, or someone else has that. Oh, look at that. You start observing it outside in other people's behavior from their horoscopes. You always learn more from doing someone else's chart than they're going to learn. But you still can, in the things you know, you can sift through to see what they need to know and be very helpful to them. Okay, when you get to Saturn, the restrictions, the discipline, the seriousness, the father is the boss. Saturn to Mercury is going to depress and restrict the mind. Well, is the mind worth being restricted? It creates worry, it creates depression, it creates, why study? Why bother doing this? Oh, that's too much, I have to do this. So these are people who tend to not talk too much and may not want to study that much. But really, the Saturn is making a person disciplined. They're probably good listeners and capable of being very disciplined in their thinking or not thinking, in their alertness. But when it goes into trying to make the plans and make associations, there's a tendency to be overly cautious or defensive rather than aggressive or proactive. So Mars is pushing to go on it. Jupiter is saying, is this right? And it becomes overly principled. And yeah, it's right, I'm going for it. I convince myself it's okay. And Saturn's saying, wait a second here. Calm yourself down. Saturn's the voice of restraint. Boy, it's hard to get educated or enjoy your education when everybody's telling you what to do. Your dad's not talking to you or telling you how to think. And you're trying to figure things out for yourself when everyone else is putting pressure on to think. So these it's any one, you still can have the Mercury, you still have to work the Mercury in the sign in the house. And the aspects of extra information, but it begins to explain why someone will push their Mercury more, or someone else will be a little more cautious, someone talks more, someone doesn't talk more. Someone with a Mercury Saturn might have to get degrees to prove it. And it may take them a longer time to, they're not going to be so quickly talkative. So that's distinctly noticeable. Someone has Mercury Saturn, the stress aspects. I have it. I have all the aspects to my Mercury, but so many. But I have Mars, Jupiter conjunct. So I already saying push, push, push. But I know the Saturn saying wait, wait, wait. I still push, and then I have to pay for it later. So then I get a good idea. I get an inspiration. Wow, great! I got to go for it. Then it's going to take thousands of hours work to write that book or to finish the idea. So I have the square, but I'm still serious. It brings my serious to my thinking. So when I'm doing things, I'm too serious about what I'm doing. I just really get disciplined, work really serious about it. That's kind of depressing and bossy to everyone else. Mars can be bossy to Mercury. Jupiter can be self-righteous to Mercury. Saturn is disciplinary. This is the judge, or it can be, it's more, listen, don't talk. Don't speak. No, if you speak, no one's going to listen to you. It's not going to get feedback. So they're not going to be quick in their communications. The Saturn, like the other planets are there too. So different stress can come up. I have them fighting each other. I have all kinds of contradictory stress around my Mercury. And thank goodness I found astrology, because one of the few things that began to explain that was so. I can't live in the fact that Saturn squares my Mercury and conjuncts my Mars. I'm going to just live anyways, but it begins to explain some of the faults. When I'm trying to turn inwardly, I realize I got to close this off, or I got to go to that. So I've made a lot of fairly severe judgments or strict judgments in my life. Also, if I'm going to a bank or I'm going to somewhere, I don't think I'm ever going to be treated fairly. Like, I don't expect to get the loan. I don't expect to get, and I don't like to be in debt anyway, so I usually do without. But this is a Saturn on my Mercury thinking. It still challenges my Venus, which wants everything, and my Moon, which needs everything. So it creates a complex that is my matrix. and whoever's you're doing. But we're just simply looking at when it's clear, someone's just listening, contemplative. They don't have a problem with their dad or with authority. They can hear, they can take a demand and then see it in perspective. But when the stress is there, there's a depression, there's a reaction from the Saturn. It can be defensive, it can be disciplined, but it's not usually the easiest quality for a writer. Someone who has a writer, they work really hard to do the writing. And they tend to be a little bit more formal than imaginative. And sometimes imaginative can come in and be right there on top of it too. But how we communicate, how we express ourselves, it's different things. Like up to Saturn, these are normal aspects. These are not huge things. Saturn is just that disciplined, restrained, cautious thinker, conservative thinker. Easy to sell them insurance. Conservative thinker. When you start, that means to dad, to employees, to accomplishing things that takes the time. You have to it slows down the Mercury makes it. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It makes it think a little bit more, but it can cause someone who's always serious or a little bit more consistently depressed or formal and always taking the side of the authority. And that for me, it was knowing that authority is always going to go against anything I want to do. And knowing I usually do things that the authority is not going to like in the end. So, okay. When you get to the 3 outer planets, so there's 3, so 3 inner, the 3 middle, the 3 outer. People nowadays, and in 50 years, there'll be 20 more, 50 more outer planets that people will be trying to read meanings into the chart. And you can keep adding them all. It's an intellectual exercise. But if you're going to add any planet, you got to go through each of the categories of the signs of the houses and see that they're working. And you have to do it first for yourself, then for others. And really, this is a lot of work, what we're doing already. It's enough to use the planets that you can see. We use the Uranus, I use the Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, but I know the others. I see the others. I don't use the others in a consultation. Too many. It brings up too many things. So some people argue you should stop at Saturn. No. But the outer planets, Uranus of excitement, Neptune of romance and adventure, and Pluto of truth and consequences. To will, to then, to conquer and take the results and suffer the consequences. So one might climb the eternal mountain or the highest mountain and they get down from it, but they hurt a leg or they hurt something. So there was a cost for doing that. When Uranus comes to Mercury, it excites the Mercury, gets one thinking about exciting things outside of the home, outside of things. It's exciting it. When it's the conjunction, even the squares, they create this excitement, but the conjunction, it could be breakthrough. With the squares and oppositions, it's more often like breakdown. So like this excitement creates anxiety, creates a nervousness, a restlessness, a fast mind that gets bored too easily. Why go to school? I can just think for myself. And it makes person who's thinking so quickly and acting so quickly, like the outer planets are always breaking through Saturn, trying to break down Saturn's discipline. So where Saturn to Mercury is logical and practical. Uranus is trying to break down the practice. This is exciting, this is shocking, this is interesting. Go for the interesting. But sometimes, more often than not, that excitement is anxiety. It's worry. This isn't fitting in, this is going to break, this is going to fall apart. And it's the worry about those things. So sometimes someone can have that anxiety and have the ability to be really free thinker, but often you find out they're really just worried and afraid of the disruptive things. They're afraid of their thoughts and their plans being disrupted. It would be harder for them to stay consistent in a course because they get it quickly and then they don't want to be consistent at the same things all the time. So generally Uranus creates that restlessness, a restless stress to the Mercury, makes it move too fast to absorb things. But fast enough to encourage you to go out and do things and get involved and to follow the excitement. You know, like you're working in an office, Suddenly there's a siren going on, and the siren's going down the street, and suddenly there's a big crash, and how do you not get off your desk and go look at it? Of course, if the boss comes by who didn't hear the accident, sees everybody looking at the window. There's Saturn everybody looking at the window, nobody's working. What's going on here? Then you get the sense of here, everyone wants excitement. But when you have the Uranus to the Mercury, it's too restless. It's the tendency to think too quick without absorbing, or someone might be thinking too fast all the time and going in their mind quickly and they can't get out of it. Of the worry, someone might know a lot of really exciting things but never take the time to write it down. They're just winging it. So it has its excitement and a need to be innovative, but Uranus is really causing anxiety and worry of, I don't fit in, the system sucks. It's like, back to the 60s, it was tune in, turn on, drop out, which was like Neptune, but it was like, it's not working anyways, let's break the system, it sucks, who needs it? Of course, everyone needs Saturn, everyone needs a bit of discipline and system. And we all need excitement in certain ways. But the Uranus Mercury gets really hyped about this. It gets really restless. What's stable thought? What's exciting thought? And it's nervous and it worries more than not. So they can get really excited, and other people think, "What's that? That's crazy." On the good side of Mercury to Uranus, it opens one up to new ideas. But new ideas, if they're going to become real, they have to be planted. They have to be worked on. They have to be made real over an extended period of time. Now, discipline to do that is almost at odds. It's easier to see it than to write about it, than to talk about it. So, but when Uranus comes in, it makes you thinking about all the big things, all the disruptions that can happen, all the sudden changes. Boy, that really diminishes your sense of security in the moon and your sense of values. If the Mercury's already hyper, it's going to be extra nervous from the other things, and then you have potential, we call it dysfunction, but just a short circuiting of your normal mental processes.